Derek, did you have any announcements while Keith gets ready?
Nope, we'll see. We'll do that at the end.
Sounds good. Okay.
All right.
So,
So I don't know if you can see that.
oh yeah, I'm just gonna mute myself here, Keith, and let you go to it.
All right. Well, I see some familiar names in the, I don't see any familiar faces, just some familiar names. Keith Curtis is there, Pete Stevens, Steve Etzel is there. So it's good to be here. I have to confess, we set this up. Derek set this up way back in June, back when we were getting ready for our convention. And, it was kind of a flurry of emails. And I said, sure, no, yeah, that'd be great. He said, we'd like to invite you to, be on our program. I said, sure, that'd be great. He said, it's going to be in October. I said, oh, yeah, I'm thinking October, that's forever away. So I kind of put the email away, and I'm getting it out on Monday just to kind of get refreshed, because I know it's coming up to, tonight. And I'm thinking, as I'm reading this email, I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute. I think I'm supposed to be making a presentation of some sort. I thought it was going to be like a Q&A type deal. So I'm scrambling, like, what am I supposed to talk about? So I emailed Derek, and he got back to me. And anyway, I remembered that I had this presentation. I actually did a presentation at the 2017 SABR convention, SABR get-together in New York City. Joe Rundy was on the committee, the Games and Simulation Committee at that time, and invited me to present. And so I had that material, and I thought, well, it's a pretty good overview of the game. I know some folks are familiar with it, but for those who aren't, it's a good overview. I won't spend a lot of time, talking about it, just mainly sort of talking about the thinking behind the game. Joe, when he invited me to come to New York in 2017, it was sort of under the suggestion that I talk about, how History Maker Baseball is different than other baseball games. At that time, the game had been out for about 4 years, and it had, gotten some good traction in the community, the sports game hobby. And but it was, the thing that everybody always said was it's way different than any other baseball game. And so Joe suggested, that I talk about how it's different. But it seemed like then, and seems like now, that the better place to start is why History Maker Baseball is different than the other baseball games. And essentially the reason is because there are so many other, classic, well-established baseball board games that have been around for, decades, that have established followings and, fanatical fan bases. And, it begs the question, why do you want to try to take on the giants like Stratomatic and APA? 50 years of equity in the hobby, or 60, 70 years now. So I thought it was appropriate to ask, does the world need another baseball game? I think honestly the answer to that question is really it doesn't. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of baseball games, unless the game that that comes out does something different or better. I mean, that's a kind of a classic marketing principle that a new product has to do something, either it has to be cheaper or has to do something differently or better than what's already out there. And so I made different my mission because it was pretty hard to do better than the titans of APA and Stratomatic. And of course, there's plenty of other games that fall in that category of really quality baseball simulations. I had already had a basic baseball game in place. I started working on it in 2002, and it used a mechanic that I used in a number of my sports games, using player attributes or qualities to describe the player's abilities. I've always been a words guy, rather than a math guy. I was telling somebody the other day, I think I'm one of the few people that managed to get a 4-year college degree without taking any math classes. Part of that was because of my veteran status, I think. But the other part was I just kind of lucked out. I did take a couple of statistics classes, which I guess sort of counted as math, but really weren't math. I never took trig or calculus or any of those high level math courses. So I've always been a words guy. I took a lot of English courses. I got my degree in advertising and marketing. I love reading, and so the use of descriptive words to generate sports action, it kind of is right in my wheelhouse. And that's what I opted to do for baseball. And this is what it looks like in a baseball context. These are sample cards from the 1959 season. You got Milt Pappas, pitcher for the Orioles, and Harmon Killebrew playing third baseman for the Senators. You can see that it's got the player names, but then it's got a bunch of words on there. You got the Pappas has star and flash and control. Killebrew's got home run king, patient, whiffer. He's got iron for fielding. The descriptive words are designed to sort of evoke what the player is all about. Now you'll note the dot after, or in some cases on the batting side, which precede the descriptive words. That's that indicates that the player has the quality to a certain degree, and it will come into play. I'll explain how that works shortly. So the question is, people see this and they think, how do you play a baseball game with no numbers on it? There's like no numbers outside of the year of the season. There's no numbers on this card. How do you play a game like that? Well, it's centered around a game book. This is actually the older version of the game book, 4.0. We are on version 5.1 right now. But this is pretty much a finished version. Even in 2017, there haven't been a lot of changes to the game, very few since 2017. But you see, you get the game book, a spiral bound game book, and you've got 4 colored dice. You get the 3 classic 6-sided dice, a red one, a blue one, and a black one. Then you get that white die that's got dots on it. That's the decider die, and that is the die that determines whether those half qualities or semi qualities are going to come into play on any given result. So, where was I? This is the inside of the game book, one page of the inside of the game book. Mentioned the dice and the qualities and the decider die, and of course the dice are read from lowest to highest, with 1 being the lowest, 6 being the highest. So if you roll a 3, a 1, and a 5, that's going to be read as a 1, 3, 5. And then the chart book is set up in 3 columns. There's the pitching column. My thinking in designing the game was, baseball starts with the ball in the hand of the pitcher, so that should happen in my game. So you start with the pitcher. You read the result from the dice roll, and it will call for a quality on the pitcher's card. If the pitcher has that quality, then you will use that result. That's as far as it goes. If the pitcher controls, then that's the result. If he does not have the quality in question, then you go to the batter column, which is the second column here, and the batter gets his chance. You'll check the batter's card to see if he has the quality that's called for on that particular column. If neither the pitcher nor the batter have the called for qualities, then you go to the final column, which is kind of the default column. We call it the fielding column. And that will be the result. So there's no questions asked in the fielder column. It's if you get that far, then that's going to be the result that you have. It's a pretty simple process. Batter, pitcher, batter, and then to the fielder if neither of them apply. So I'll give you a little rundown. We'll play a little sample half inning with the 1969 Orioles and Mets. Got Tom Seaver on the mound for the Mets. There's his card for the 69 season. He's ace, flash, semi-control. Paul Blair will lead off for the Orioles. He's a semi-hero, slugger, and semi-eager. He also has gold fielding. The experience quality I'll explain later, shortly. So we have our dice roll. We roll a 1, 4, 4, and I've got the section of the chart right here. So if I roll a 1, 4, 4, it's gonna ask if the pitcher Tom Seaver has the flash quality. Well, we see he does have the flash quality, so that's as far as this is gonna go. He's gonna strike out Paul Blair. That'll be a strikeout, and we'll go. There's 1 down. We go to the next batter, which is going to be Don Buford, and we roll a 2, 4, 6. You can see it's expressed as a 6, 4, 2, the blue die first, but it's red 2, 4, 6 with the decider die blank. And it's going to ask on the pitcher side, does the pitcher have control? We see Tom Seaver has semi-control. There's that dot. So we check the decider die and it's not showing the dot. So for this batter, Seaver does not have the control quality. So now we're going to go to the batter's card, Don Buford's card, and it's going to ask, does he have the eager or sad sack qualities? He does not have either of those. If he did, he would have popped out to the third baseman. But because we didn't, neither of these applied, we're going to go to the fielder column, and that's going to be a base on balls. He's going to take a walk, and if he had the active quality, which is a base running quality, he does not. But if he did, he would steal second base. So you can see it's like a decision tree. There's all these different ways that it could branch off. But the bottom line is Buford's on first base with a walk. Next up is going to be Brooks Robinson. Utility semi-home run king. We roll a 2-5-5. And we can check the pitcher column for 2-5-5. It's going to ask if Tom Seaver is a star. He is not. He does not have the star quality. He has the ace quality, but not the star quality. Some pitchers have both. The top pitchers will have both ace and star. So that's going to be a no. We go to the batter column. It's going to ask if he's a home run king. We see Brooks Robinson has the home run king quality to a partial degree, but again, the dot did not come up. So he will not get to the quality. So instead of a home run to left field, it comes up just short. It's a fly out to left field. And this is one of the fun things about the decider die. It adds a lot of narrative. You can see that it was very close to being a home run for Brooks Robinson, a 2-run dinger, but instead it's just a deep fly out. And 2 out now. And we go to our next batter, and that's going to be Boog Powell. We roll a 4-6-6, and we get the decider die dot. We're going to check the pitcher column, and it's going to ask if Tom Seaver is wild. He's not wild. If he was, we would have issued a walk. We're checking Boog Powell for the home run king or slugger quality. He has both. He's got the slugger quality here and the home run king because he's got the decider die dot. So because he has both of them, it's going to be a strikeout. What? Yes. Sometimes the good qualities have their downside. Sometimes the bad qualities can have an occasional upside. In this particular case, he took the big cut, reaching for the fence, and wind up swinging and missing. It's a strikeout for Boog Powell to end the inning. If he'd been a little bit taking a little bit less of a cut, would have been a single to left field. But Seaver gets out of it, 1 man on, one no runs. And a walk, and that will end the inning. So, the reality is, people say, well, how can you play baseball with just words instead of numbers? There are numbers behind the words, and that is what really makes the game go. It really, in that sense, really is a classic simulation baseball board game. A hero batter, for example, is going to hit in the 270s or 280s. A slugger, a player has the slugger quality, is going to hit between 25 and 35 home runs, and will have slightly more doubles than home runs. Have somewhat more doubles than home runs. The home run king has a different profile. They're the ones that have more home runs than doubles, and of course, if you got both of them, you're just going to hit a lot of home runs. So there are actual numbers behind these words, but they sort of hide the numbers with narrative. But bottom line is, it's basically a baseball simulation game, not that much different than APA and Stratomatic at its heart. And so I felt it was a good starting point, but I felt like for a new game to get any kind of a foothold, it had to do something a little bit more than just be a faithful recreation of baseball. Even if it did present it in a different way, I felt like it'd be better if it could differentiate itself more. So my conclusion at that point, this would be about 2009, 2010, felt like it's not different enough. So the next step was to find other ways to differentiate a baseball game in addition to the cosmetic look of qualities versus numbers. And so I just started brainstorming, thinking, of course, I grew up playing baseball sim games myself, played APA and Strat and, Status Pro and just about every, baseball game I could get my hands on. And I, like many other teenagers of the 1970s, read the ads in the various sports publications. Here's one from 1972, or actually from 1973. It's an APA ad. We all probably remember these ads. The magazines that contained them are no longer around, but it was a golden time for us growing up. This was the APA ad. You'd find ads for Stratomatic and the other games as well, but it's a lot of text talking about how the game is going to statistically recreate the actual 1972 season. I've got a quote extracted from the ad. This card of Johnny Bench will produce a record so similar to Bench's actual 1972 performance that you will literally be astonished. So it will be with every single player in the game. And really, this sort of set the paradigm. This set the foundation of what we as kids expected from a sports sim game. We expected that it would faithfully accurately recreate the actual statistics of an actual baseball season. And looking backward, at something is different than looking forward. The precedent was set, the groundwork was set that for a game, the more realistic, the more accurate a game could capture player statistics, the better it was. That became like really the be all end all of sports board games. So thinking, brainstorming, I thought, well, what if you challenged that thinking? How could you challenge that thinking? And I began to think about taking the opposite approach. Instead of looking backwards at a season, how about if you're looking ahead to a season that's about to begin? Opening day 1972 with Sparky Anderson and Johnny Bench, and what is that going to look like? And I came up with a name for that. I called it the blue sky approach to baseball. It's like the premise is you're starting a new season with the potential for different outcomes. The kind of range of outcomes that a real life manager might expect. So just to contrast, the classic approach to a baseball sim game would be to bring about as much alignment as possible with the historical outcome, the actual historical outcome. The blue sky approach would be to allow for as much variance as reasonable from the historical statistics. Now, how much variance is mathematically reasonable? Some people say, well, no variance is reasonable. Well, that's not actually true. In the interest of time, I will skip the discussion on standard deviation and the 3 sigma rule and demonstrated effect of random events, and just kind of cut to the chase. 20% is a reasonable expectation of mathematical variance from the norm. That is to say, you can make a pretty strong case that more than 20% is acceptable. Bill James, came to that conclusion. Bill James, the guru of baseball stats himself. But certainly 20% variance is a reasonable number. That is to say, a team that won 80 games during a regular season could if it were able to go back and play the season again from scratch with a universe of possible outcomes, some players performing better than they did, some players performing worse. It stands to reason that if a team that won 80 games could reasonably expected to win as many as 96 or as few as 64, according to that thinking. Something that's kind of lost or was lost on me as a kid was that the actual historical outcome of the season is one outcome. It's one possible outcome of many. We all watch the talking heads on ESPN and some of the other sports networks talking about doing computer simulations of an event, of a game, or of a series or whatever. And they'll say, we ran 10,000 computer simulations. Well, what's kind of lost, and they'll say, and such a team won 72% of them, so they're likely to win this game. What's lost in that, or what's kind of glossed over, is that in 28% of those matchups, had a very different outcome. I mean, it's the historical outcome that actually happens is one of millions of possible outcomes. Some very similar, but some diverse, and that is the approach that I took for this. I wanted to read something from Bill James. He did a study called 2,000 Years of Willie Mays, and I quote this in the welcome letter that I send with each copy of History Maker Baseball. He said, for example, Willie Mays. Well, let me back this up. For this piece, he conducted thousands of computer simulations of single season performances, Willie Mays, Wade Boggs, Joe DiMaggio, and came to the conclusion that player performance can vary widely purely because of random factors, good or bad luck. For example, in his project, Willie Mays batted .361 with 45 home runs in year 226 of the project, but in year 826, the exact same profile batted just .236. That's 120 points less, with half the home runs, only 21 home runs. Same profile, different results. And Bill James says, when a player has an off year or even a terrible year, there may not be any reason for it. It might just be the breaks of the game. And implicitly, the same holds true for a player having a great year. Now, if this happened in a sports board game, if Willie Mays was supposed to hit 45 home runs and he only hit 21, it would be seriously called into question. And I'm not saying that that's the people are wrong for thinking that. I'm just saying that in a blue sky approach, where you're starting at the beginning of the season and opening up different possibilities, then a variance from the norm is not unreasonable. So the next challenge beyond that was how to engineer that 20% variance into the game and not let it become like a carnival or a comedy of just random stuff happening. How to intelligently and thoughtfully engineer that 20% variance into the game. And I came up with I'm not running behind here. I came up with a few methods of doing so. Number one was using intangibles. These would be keywords that are not printed on the cards themselves, but are applicable nonetheless. Hot and cold. I call that right now status. As a player like hot right now, he's gonna benefit from that. Is he cold? He's going to suffer from that. I was thinking about this watching the Brewers and the Dodgers. It's like the Brewers couldn't buy a hit. It's just like they were just it was a combination. It felt like the Dodgers were red hot, the Brewers were ice cold, and it just wasn't going to work. And so it is a real thing, although not quantifiable. You can't measure it except to notice it. So I wanted to build that in. Then, and again, this is different than what we normally refer to as hot and cold. It's not like hot dice, like you're rolling great numbers. It's an actual attribute that's built into the game where if the team is hot, they will get a favorable outcome, whereas they would not have had they not been hot. I should just do a check here and make sure everybody's still with me. Am I still on?
Yeah,
okay,
you're good.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure I hadn't crashed again. I was talking with somebody on the phone over the weekend, and I was talking for like 5 minutes before the phone started ringing. It was him calling back. It's like, oh, I didn't even know you were up there. So the downside of doing a soliloquy, I guess. So intangibles, the right now status. Team chemistry is another thing. It's not quantifiable, but it's a very real thing. Some teams have good clubhouses, some have bad. Losing can kind of feed on itself, as can winning. Good sometimes. The good karma, they just get a good bounce. So team chemistry is a factor in History Maker Baseball as well. And finally, player experience is something that is intangible. But bottom line is that veteran players know some things that rookie players don't, and that knowledge is used in game to benefit the player. So with intangibles in play, players with the same statistical profile can generate different results. You can take a hero batter on a dissonant team, and he's not going to play as well as a hero batter on a harmonic team with harmony. And again, I call this the Dodger effect. You know, I didn't call it that then, but I was thinking about it now. It's like, if you trade a player to the Dodgers, he's going to play better. You know, he's just going to be a better player because he's surrounded by better talent, and it's just a better vibe. So with those intangibles in play, it adds a nice array of different possible outcomes and contextual results that I think make the game compelling. Another thing I came up with is the game day chart. Some people use it, some people don't. I like to use it, particularly in a campaign mode. It presents pre-game events and how they might affect the game. Now most baseball sim games, typically a baseball board game is going to recreate everything from the first pitch to the final out. But the game day mechanic simulates stuff that happens before and after the game as well, and has that effect, an applicable effect to the game outcome. It recreates the stuff that happens outside the innings, which also affects players and teams, and adds that to the mix. Stuff like front office issues, injuries, the media, the game day mechanic, the game day charts generate scenarios and assign keywords to define the effects. Like, for example, if the front office has bungled a player's contract negotiations, he's going to be unhappy about it, and it can affect his play. It doesn't necessarily affect his play, but it can. Another example, you're the manager, you're sitting in your office, the trainer comes in and says, "Hey, second baseman's limping today." In most baseball sim games, what that means is you're going to roll a die and he's going to be out for X number of games. In History Maker Baseball, it might allow the player to play at a reduced effectiveness. In other words, he might, instead of being an active base runner, he might now be a stoic base runner because he's got a hamstring injury. Or it might affect his batting if he's got some sort of a rib cage or shoulder injury. So, and you don't necessarily have to play them. In fact, a lot of guys, in the years that the game's been out, I've heard many stories of guys that have their own IR. A guy gets put on, has something like that. He could play. You could keep him in the lineup, but instead you put him on the injured reserve and bring up somebody else. And it's kind of a cool twist to it. So these are things that affect games, and it's added to the History Maker Baseball mix through the game day mechanic. I should say that this whole blue sky approach, it's designed to complement the game and not overpower it. It's first and foremost, as it says on the screen, History Maker Baseball is designed to be a realistic rendition of big league baseball, just from a different perspective. It's designed to these things like intangibles are designed to complement the game and not overpower it. Typically, they're going to happen about every 8 or 9 at bats. Something will happen that might call for an intangible. I'm looking at my notes. What did I write here? Some are I can't even read my own handwriting. I guess what I'm saying is, at its core, History Maker Baseball is a baseball simulation game. It just has some added elements to it to add some different depth and narrative and make it engaging in a different sort of a way. There are some other features that I added, which I won't go too deep into. The expanded manager strategy options. Most baseball games, well, all baseball games really, have your classic decision whether to bunt, whether to play the infield in, whether to do the hit and run, whether to go for a pinch hitter, go for a reliever, all the standard manager options. But History Maker Baseball has some additional psychological manager options that are very real as well. You can provide insight to a rookie player, a younger player, give him a manager tip that will help him hopefully perform better in this next at bat. You can argue with the umpire to get your team fired up. You can get thrown out of the game. I've been thrown out of my own game many times. but it can fire up your team and change a negative, chemistry situation into something positive. There are psychological things like, pep talks. Walk into the mound can have an effect. If your pitcher's in trouble, but you don't really want to pull him because maybe your bullpen's weak, or he's your star pitcher. Rather than pull him, you can actually walk to the mound, and that's not just an empty thing. It allows you to talk to him, give him a break, add a quality for that next at bat that can have an effect. I don't know how many times I've had that happen where you walk to the mound, you add a quality, and the pitcher gets out of it, and it really evokes the feel of watching a big league game. Of course, sometimes it doesn't work, and then you go out again, and this time you're bringing in the reliever. So it definitely evokes the sense of a real baseball game. Umpires are rated in History Maker Baseball. They get their own cards. I'm not aware of other baseball games that have umpires. They can definitely have an effect. I was going back through some of my old archives. The 2017 World Series pre-play we did in Seattle. We typically do we play the World Series before it happens with our in-season set, and we did it in Seattle in 2017, and Game 7 was decided on a missed call at the plate. That was where the runner was called safe when he was actually out, and the video review barely upheld it. It was that close, and so it adds an element to it that's pretty fun. And umpires definitely can have an impact on a game. Again, they don't overpower the game. Many games they're silent. There have been plenty of games that I played where the umpires had no impact at all. It's just a quiet game. They just made the calls. But sometimes they can make a mistake or make a right call that could have gone the other way, and it can have an impact. And when it does, it's memorable. Also, it's very easy to make your own players with History Maker Baseball, as evidenced by the multitudes of user-created card sets that we have. They send them to us. If you go to our website, go to the free stuff page, you'll see, many card sets that regular people have made, and you can play, with it's very easy to make your own players. And you can play the game with ordinary baseball trading cards. That was actually my original, one thing that I didn't mention when I was talking about, brainstorming, how can I make this game different? How can I make a baseball game that is different than other games? My first thought was, how could you make it so it could be played with ordinary baseball trading cards? So you could actually go to Walmart or, go to Target and buy a pack of cards and play it, spread it on your table and play a baseball game with it. How could you do that? And you can do that with History Maker Baseball. I have a little trading card quick rate guide that looks like this. I don't know if you can see that. And it comes with a series of cards that have little grids on it. And you can, using the statistics on the back of the baseball card, you can say, okay, he had 30 home runs in 450 at bats. That's going to make him a semi-slugger and home run king. And then, you can apply that to the game. It takes a little longer to play a game that way, but it's a different feel, and it's fun, especially when you're using, your own baseball cards, especially the vintage baseball cards you've had sitting in a shoebox for decades. To get them out and actually, play a game with them is it's a different kind of fun. And that's the kind of different that I was looking for when I was thinking of ways to make a baseball game. So that is basically the story behind History Maker Baseball. I appreciate you guys letting me tell it again. I hope haven't missed anything. I guess that's what the Q&A part is for. So with that, I will stop sharing and go to the screen.
Okay, well, I've got a question for you.
All right.
I'm assuming it's there, but just to confirm, within the game book, is there like a rare plays?
Oh yeah, yes, Yeah, there's tons of rare. In fact, that's one of the things. Many people, it goes all the way to they're expressed in terms of highlight reels. Let me get a copy of the game book. Where did I put my game? I'll just show you here. This is the game book as it looks now. I mean, oh, it doesn't look like it's showing up because maybe because I got a red screen or something. So there are highlight reels in the back of the book, and it starts with highlight reel A, and it goes to highlight reel Z. And there are many people who told me that they don't even want to read highlight reel Z. They just want to. I mean, highlight reel Z. You might get to that. You might never get to it. It's like you'd have to play thousands of games to get that deep into the highlight reel. But stuff, generational events can happen on highlight reel Z. So yes, and there's every gradient in between, from A to Z.
I have a few questions, but I'll ask them one at a time. Do you have a date for next year's convention?
For Play.con,
Yeah.
we do not have a date for that at this point.
So I guess related to that, do you try to schedule it around a Rockies game?
We do. Yes, we do. Go Rockies.
Good, because that's a stadium I need to check off my list.
Usually they're playing the Dodgers during our convention, so we always get a good crowd of folks going to it. Some people go to multiple games.
So I'll sneak in another one and then I'll let somebody else go in. But, I was wondering a little bit about what your inspiration might have been for the game design, which, by the way, congratulations. It is different than many others, as you know better than I. But I was just looking this week at time travel baseball, for example, and it has some player characteristics, and it kind of made me think of your game. And then this kind of pitcher, batter, fielder sequence reminds me a little bit of the Sports Illustrated game flow, if you will. And I was just wondering, or did this just come to you in a dream, or how did it work?
How did it come to me? It was 20 something years ago. I grew up playing APA baseball as a kid and into my early adulthood, and then I discovered Stratomatic and played a lot of that. Played a lot of the first game I played was I don't even know the name of the game, but it was a simple baseball game that had each player had two. You rolled two dice. You got anywhere from a 2 to a 12, and it had results, on that for each player. And there was a pitching component to it as well, but we never used that. We just used the batting component, and it had pictures of the players on the cards. And I always appreciated the simplicity of it. I feel like I'm really not a genius. People sometimes say you're a genius. I'm not a genius. That's why I make the games the way I make them, because I'm not. I don't like complexity. I like things to be simple, and so it felt. I guess that game, all those games had an influence on me. Another game that had an influence on me was Program 4. I don't know if anybody's even familiar with Program 4 baseball. It was a game that was advertised in a magazine, in all the sports magazines, in the classified section. Didn't have like a full page ad, had one of those little classified ads, and it cost $1, and you could send away for this game, and it said you could play any team, play any game you want, just send us $1. And so I, as I explained, I always wanted to be able to make my own teams and play my own games, sent away for it, and it was very simple, but it was, it sort of had the idea of looking at baseball categorically, like, putting people in particular quadrants of or categories of player, and so when I had developed several other games using the qualities. The wrestling game was the first one, but then roller derby and several others. It just seemed natural to to use the narrative based thing. And so I just began trying to think of, what kind of a structure would I need? And using the 3D6, I know that the Universal Baseball Association, Robert Coover's book, used a game that had, you roll 3 dice and you read them that same way. And I thought, that's kind of a neat way to do a baseball game. Why don't I do that? Because it provided the number of different possible results. It provided the granularity that you needed to get the different results that you needed without making it terribly complicated. So, I mean, all those, I guess, the Robert Coover book was formative as well. The idea that, you've got players that are, that sort of take over the guy's mind, his imagination to the point that it becomes really real to him. That's the kind of game I wanted to make.
Do you think that 2-12 game you're talking about would have been challenged the Yankees, maybe?
No, it wasn't challenging the Yankees. It didn't have, in fact, it had the player hats were blacked out. They didn't have team logos.
Oh, Milton Bradley, I think.
Yes, it was a Milton Bradley game. And it was black. The cards are black and white, except I believe either the hits or the outs were printed in red.
Yeah, in the yes, in the 69 and 72 version.
That's the game we played. We never did any pitching with it though. We just rolled in the batter card. So we'd have games where it was like 17-13, and but it was fun. We really enjoyed it. And we played with the neighborhood kids. We had a gang of neighborhood kids that hung out. And we all loved sports, and we would just play sports games, and we loved that game.
I have more.
So I had a couple questions. One of your sample cards noted the player attribute sad sack. I was curious what that refers to.
That is a bad batting quality. That's a quality you do not want to have. There was it's actually a World War II term. And I guess I don't remember why I chose it. I think I chose it kind of as a whim and just developing it. It just kind of stuck. But a sad sack is, someone who's not great at batting. So you don't want to have the sad sack quality. Although, some modern players think the batting averages league wide are going down to the point that we do see some semi-sad sacks every once in a while in today's big league. So, yeah.
And then you were talking about the team chemistry attribute. What do you base that rating on?
It's based on wins and losses. The more you win, the more harmony you have. The more you lose, the less, the more dissonance you have. It just makes that general assumption that, winning teams, and it's not always, it doesn't always correlate, but that makes it interesting too, because you can take a team. There were certain Yankees teams with Billy Martin. They were terribly dissonant, but yet they won. But it begs the question, how much would they have won if they would have actually gotten along? So it operates from the premise that winning is what winning feeds on itself. So there's a formula, in the game day mechanic where it's based on the number of games you've won in a row, and like if you haven't won any games in a row or lost in a row, and there is a die roll which tells you whether you have harmony or dissonance, or you can have semi-harmony and semi-dissonance as well. That's usually where you wind up on it, and you kind of float between one or the other typically, and it makes for a neat dynamic.
Thank you.
It's especially cool when it changes the complexion of the game, where the team's dissonant, and the guy's kind of not making. If he'd made the extra effort, he'd have made that play in the field, but instead, it gets by him, and it's like you can just see it. It's like, that's when it rains, it pours. So it really is a neat mechanic, I think. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I was going to ask you, did you start out with History Maker Baseball as fictional players, or did you do real life players right from the beginning?
I like I said, I wanted to use trading cards. I have it somewhere. It's the original game used trading cards, and so it's always been real players. I did have fictional in my other sports games prior to baseball. Baseball came out in 2013. I started Play.com in 2000 and ran it till 2004, then picked it back up again in 2009 when my radio career petered out, shall we say. And we decided not to move. I was in radio for many, many years, and the radio career is 2 years in a town, 3 years in a town, then you move to another town, and then you move to another city. You're constantly moving. So me and my wife decided when the Denver job ended, we liked it here, so we were going to stay here. And that's when I switched back to Play.com. So, and then 2009, I relaunched the site. I had football, I had wrestling, I had a demolition derby game. I had a lacrosse game, and those games, like the lacrosse game and the roller derby game and the wrestling game, all used this qualities-based methodology, and they all had real life athletes and fictional components. So when baseball came along, it made sense to do fictional baseball as well. But real life was always the bedrock of it. It's always based on playing with real life players.
Somebody asked in the chat about effects of right-left matchups, pitcher-batter matchups.
We've had a spirited discussion on that, and I will say that the game faithfully recreates the actual historical advantage. There's about a 50, if I'm remembering, it's been a while since I looked at the numbers, so forgive me if I misquote them, but I believe it's like a 15-point advantage for being the opposite hand, or if you're facing the same-handed pitcher, it's a 15-point deficit, and the game recreates that. And some people, it's usually a comment that people will make is like it doesn't recreate the lefty righty factor strongly enough, but really it does to a historical degree. And I've seen it matter many times. It's the same thing with the pinch hit. There's a reading in the game book that calls for a pinch hitter. If the batter is a pinch hitter, he's going to get a hit. Otherwise, it's going to be an out. And you bring in a pinch hitter sometimes, and you think, well, I'm going to bring him in because he's got better qualities. But then you get that extra boost, and you hit that pinch hitter, and it's like, wow. Sometimes I've had game-winning hits from that reading. So, yeah, I think the game is pretty well vetted now. It's been out for 12 years, and the first couple of years there were some tweaks that needed to be made, but since about 2000, since the SABR thing in 2017, it's virtually unchanged. It's pretty well vetted and pretty solid, I think.
I was going to ask about ballpark factors, so I wasn't sure if, like, similar to the decide or die, is there something like it would be a home run in Yankee Stadium, the short porch, but in certain other ballparks, it would be a deep fly out or something like something.
Yes, the ballparks are rated as well. Every ballpark is rated. It's got qualities. There's big, there's small, there's a quality for artificial turf, and certain, parks that are friendly to left-handed batters are friendly to left-handed batters in History Maker Baseball. We don't try to recreate the actual numbers. It's more we want to recreate the feel of batting in Fenway Park, or Coors Field, the general feel of it. And so yes, the ballparks have qualities as well. Just about everything has a quality in History Maker Baseball.
Don't be
I'll go
shy.
again
If
if
you
not.
got questions, go ahead.
I've got another one. I'll throw it out there. What about cross era play? So if I've got the 27 Yankees against the I don't know, whatever, the 2024 Dodgers, for example.
Yeah, we've had many discussions about that as well. I don't know that we've ever really come to an agreement. I think at the end of the day, there's no way the 2024 Yankees are going to play the 1927 Yankees. It can't be done. It's all hypothetical. So nobody really knows what would happen. So we make our best guesses. I believe, the game it has allowance for, pitching dynamics in terms of, the dead ball era versus the 1998 season where everything was getting out of the park. Teams are averaging 6 runs a game. And there are certain qualities that can be brought into play, which will, I kind of liken it to adjusting the tone on your radio, the bass and the treble. The game book has a feature in it which will allow you to sort of adjust it to your taste. So really, no matter where you land on the cross era thing, you can make it fit the way you think it should be. And I think I don't know how to approach it any better than that.
Yeah, I was thinking the early 1930s, where like every team, or nearly every team, I think it was in the NL, hit close to 300 or something like that.
Yeah.
Or the 1968 season with the pitching.
Right. So it's like the 68 season, those pitchers are going to have the gilded quality, which will beef up, will help batters. Because I call it gilded because that's what it is. It's like sort of false fool's gold. And there's a dynamic quality which comes into play for the high ERA eras, which will tamp it down somewhat. It gives pitchers a little bit of a help to recapture that, the realism. And so if you play 2 teams from those different eras, it's kind of up to you. Okay, so where are we playing in 1968 or are we playing in 1935? If you want to play the 35 Tigers against the 68 Cardinals, you kind of got to decide, well, where did the time machine take us?
Right.
And then you play by those rules. That's the way this game approaches it. I mean, there's probably a way you could kind of meld it together somehow and come up with a mean, but that's not the way we do it.
Right. Well, maybe you base it on the home team, right?
Well, or you could play it in a neutral. You play it,
Right.
we're going to meet in 1980 or something. You could do it that way.
Yep. Okay, great.
Say, Keith.
2024 Yankees against the 1927 Yankees, it's pretty simple. 2024 Yankees wouldn't do it a default because the 27 Yankees are all dead.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Any other questions out there?
I was going to ask one more if I could. You do a favor to your fans, I think, Keith, by offering up this rating guide, and I know it doesn't give you exactly the formula, but it's pretty close, and people can do their own teams. I have a friend doing 1972 for me right now, actually.
Nice.
And what was your philosophy or thinking about releasing that into the public domain? And
it was simple. When I played Status Pro basketball when I was in college. I picked up a copy at a game store and just played the heck out of that game. We played that every single night in the dorm. And there was a little section on the back of it that said, here's how to make your own cards. Here's how to make here's how to do the shooting ratings. Here's how to do the free throw ratings. It really wasn't anything too much in depth. And it was funny. At the end of it, said, this is all there is. So don't ask us for anything more. This is all there is. And I thought, I like that. So I just felt like that's what I want to do, because people like to make their own teams, and I know I do. So it felt like a natural thing to offer. I think it's a net win, for the game and our company, in that, people make their own sets. They don't buy them from us, but when you make something yourself, you're more invested in it. And I don't know, we have a great community. We get an amazing community. And part of that, I think, is because of the trust that we place in them to, make their own cards and do the right thing,
I guess I'll ask one more.
Go for it.
On that point, I would have bought 1972 from you but that's one of the seasons that you don't have. And so what's the plan, if any, to fill out the gaps?
I don't think we're ever going to fill out all the gaps. It's never really been a goal of mine to have every single baseball season available, particularly since the how-to guide is there and people can make whatever season they want. The reality of the hobby is that, if you do a poll of the hobby and say, okay, which would you rather have, a vintage set or a current set? Everybody will say, I want a vintage set. But then when you say, okay, which vintage set shall we make? Then it's like 2 people want this year, 3 people want this year, 5 people want this year. There's never any consensus about what year, what's a fantastic year, a memorable year to someone, to one person is like, I don't care about that year to somebody else. So it's tough to, justify sometimes allocating the resources to make a season that, not that many people are really going to get into. A few people will really get into it, but we make those decisions, and that's another reason why the how-to guide is out there. So it's like, hey, you can, if we don't make it, you're welcome to make it yourself.
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else?
Well, I'll make this as a plug for you, not me, but I have a video that talks about your how-to guide if anybody wants to go to YouTube and look it up.
Terrific. Well, I appreciate you, getting it and enjoying it.
I didn't reveal any intellectual property, so they still need to buy it. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But I do. I love it when people make their own cards, and they usually send them to me, and let me take a look at them. And sometimes they want me to critique them. I feel like it's your cards. You did a great job. So I really had a good time being here tonight. I thank you for inviting me. I always love talking about the game and the thinking behind it. I know it's different. I tell people, where other people zig, I like to zag, and it drives my wife crazy, because that's just the kind of person I am, whether we're talking about sports games or whatever. But it's only natural that my games are just a little bit off, the norm. But I enjoy the opportunity to speak to people who love the hobby like I do, and appreciate you guys very, very much.
So if you're traveling somewhere, you take the long route. You don't trust your GPS.
I don't. Well, generally, when we're traveling, I like to just get there. The fun begins when I get there. We just visited our daughter and her husband in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. We live in Denver, and we drove it straight. We left at 1 a.m, got to Eau Claire at 4 p.m, and just stayed up all night. Listen to music, ate snacks, and it's like, okay, now we're here. The fun can begin. So, I mean, that most people, I think, would think, dude, what are you doing? You enjoyed the trip. But for us, that was enjoyable. So yeah, I like to do things differently. I like the Rockies. So, I mean, that speaks volumes. I didn't really start liking them. This is the funny part. I didn't really start liking them until they started losing badly. So it's like, I can appreciate them now. They're lovable losers.
I feel like it's one of those teams. It's people keep showing up because it's a beautiful venue, and there's a lot of scenery in the beyond the outfield fences and everything, and but then you get into that cycle of, well, we're drawing $3 million a year without doing anything to make our team, to improve our team.
Yeah. Well, number one, the Rockies were in the top half of the league in attendance, despite being way at the bottom in wins and losses. And it is a fantastic venue. It really is. And they go the extra mile to make it really special to go there. The food is world class. It's clean. It's really a beautiful place to see a ball game. So that's that. Second of all is, we've had this discussion with Rocky fans. Will the Rockies ever be able to have a winning team? Because no pitcher wants to pitch here. And if you can't have, pitching, how are you going to win the World Series? Really, when it comes right down to it, pitching is what wins. And no pitcher wants to pitch here because of the altitude. So how are we ever going to have, a championship team? And maybe ownership is thinking, maybe we don't need a championship team. We'll just make it a good experience for the fans. I don't know. I've heard that the Vegas team is going to have the same problem. High altitude, nobody's going to want to pitch there.
Yep. All right. Well, I've got
How much
got a
of that
couple
can you
announcements.
I was
Mark,
just saying, how much of that can you control by having an indoor facility? Because the
I
Las
don't-
Vegas one's probably going to have to be, or is going to be indoor.
I don't know that it has any effect at all. I don't
I'm
think.
just wondering if you can set things in there that it negates the altitude.
Like put some sort of a humidifier and maybe you could do that. I don't think they're going to do that at the Coors Field, but maybe you could maybe they should do that. Build an indoor stadium that's climate controlled with constant 66 degrees and like X humidity, and maybe that would have an effect.
Yeah, well, with as hot as it gets in Vegas in the summer, it's going to have to be indoors.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Sorry, Derek. Go ahead.
no good. Wasn't that the rumor at the Metrodome that they would, when the home team was batting, they would turn the fans on behind home plate or something?
Well, I went to several games at the Metrodome when I was working in Minneapolis, and I don't remember that happening, but it very well may have. I know that when you exited the building with those turnstile doors, it's like the wind with the suction was unbelievable.
Like a vortex.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was amazing. It was quite an experience.
All right. So upcoming meetings, we've got actually Richard's in attendance today. So got Richard Dombrowski, the developer of the Dombrov baseball sim. Will be on November 18th, 8 p.m. Eastern. And what do we got? December 9th, Steve Lachey, the inventor of the Sherco Grand Slam baseball game. And he'll be on December 9th at 8 p.m. So I think that's all we got for upcoming meetings. I don't know, Mark, you have anything else coming up?
Yeah, next week I'm watching the World Series every night.
There you go. Oh, we are. I will put that out there. We'll probably be sending out a communication pretty soon. We've got our research committee. We're doing a gathering information on everyone's replays, their replay results, what games they're using, and collecting a whole bunch of data for that. So we'll send a link out through our newsletter for that, and we'll have the replay results up on our website. So I think that's all we got for today.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
we're
you.
heading into quiet time.
All right.
So thank you everybody for coming.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you, Keith.
Bye.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.